Soundstripe.
Welcome into Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs, joined with me by my co-host, Dakota Lowry.
You got it that time. Good job, man.
Yeah, I got it, but I still getting tongue-tied over my words. I do not do good when I'm talking really fast. So, and also joined with us by Ernie Ferguson.
You know what it is? You guys do too much learning in school.
Oh, man, I wrote down quotes that I thought you were going to use. I didn't have that one on here. Well, actually, I have that on here to laugh at later in the podcast, but I didn't have that as a quote that you would use.
Of course. Be perfect. I was like, nah, that's too much. My original was, I'm going to knock you out with a pair of flip flops. But you know,
I didn't have any of those. The two main ones I had were, if they score more points than us, they win the ball game.
Well, a coach one time in an interview has actually said that before. That maybe you're talking to.
And then I don't have the full quote, but it was he'll wash your car and walk the dog and something like that. I don't know what he's talking about, baby. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I can't remember the exact quote, but I had that one in there.
I came real close to going with you're playing like the village idiot, just because that reminds me of one of my coaches from high school.
I thought it was going to be that one.
If you're listening and you couldn't tell, we are doing Friday Night Lights, 2004's Friday Night Lights, the movie, not the good TV show, which I like the TV show. Well, I like the first season of the TV show, but it always hurts me when I mention Friday Night Lights and people are like, "Oh, I like that show," and I'm like, "It was a movie first." And there's a lot of people that haven't seen the movie, so that always hurts me. But
it hurts me that people remember the movie when I remember the book.
Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't it a book first?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're not all old like you, Ernie.
Age has nothing to do with good literature.
Yeah, I don't really think it is. So I'm younger than you, and I said it.
Mister, I use words for a living.
No, I like to read, but that book came out, it came out 6 years before I was born.
Oh, man. Perish the thought that you read anything other than I don't know, fine. Twilight or anything like that.
What? I like the Twilight books. Thank you very much.
I've read them all.
Do you read them every October or November or whatever it is?
No, I can't.
Played Decode by Paramore.
I can't. I don't think I've read them since I was in school.
Even though I can't say much because my wife and I did stop in Forks, Washington. So
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to if you're up there.
We're there.
I don't want to segue too much, but my wife does not like Twilight. She's like the only female I've ever met that doesn't like Twilight.
That's very surprising. Knowing your wife, that's very surprising.
Yeah, well, I don't get it either. But
I think because Bella's an awful female character.
Is it Bella or is it the actress?
She's better in the books than she is in the movies.
She's still codependent and weak. No. Katniss Everdeen in Hunger Games is a better, stronger model. Again, having a daughter like I do, I'm like, I know. It's no.
I mean, isn't the second... Sorry, I know this is way off, but isn't the second movie just her entirely being depressed because a boy left town?
Yeah, I mean, yes. It's not.
The second book is tough to get through.
It's fan fiction.
The whole thing is.
It's definitely the worst. All right, but let's get away from the Twilight.
Let's get back to football, man.
Football.
But yeah, Friday Night Lights, 2004. So first 2000s movie we're doing.
Yes,
We've
I guess
done
I guess the intro doesn't necessarily apply to this with Blockbuster and all that other kind of stuff.
well, I mean, shoot, now it's 20 years ago, so I mean,
But
hey,
now,
that's
but explain why you chose this. I think that's important for people to know
Yeah.
why you chose this because this is your
okay.
choice.
Yeah, and I don't if I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I'm a high school sports reporter, and I love my job. Do not have any desire to do college or NFL, but I love mostly because I don't want to be away from my family, but also because I just like covering high school sports. But obviously, I like high school football, and I watch this every year before football starts, and I've done that I think since high school. I remember when I was in high school and playing football, we as a team always watched Remember the Titans before football started, which is, I mean, I think every person that's in America should watch that movie.
Yeah.
So
But
good.
football wise, always loved this one more, just because I mean, as a straight football movie, it's one of my favorites. I love watching it every year. So yeah, that's why I picked that. High school football starts. So we're recording
Tomorrow.
this. Well, we're recording this on Tuesday, but when this will release, it'll start tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thursday night. Yeah.
So man, I'm so looking forward to it. Like,
I'm trying to think, and I know we haven't rated this or anything like that, but just as far as football movies, this is up there with the better football movies.
it's my favorite. Now again, like I said, I mean, as far as a pure football movie goes, now Remember the Titans is amazing, and like I said, I think everybody in this country should have to be that should be required watching one time. But obviously, the messages of that movie are more. It's more than football. Football is really just a backdrop in that movie. But as far as a pure football movie goes, I think this is the best football movie, in my opinion.
It is. I mean, it's quality. I like the football that they play. Having having football players actually look like they're playing football,
Yeah.
other than some of the ridiculous spin moves that you're going to have. Lucas Black throwing the football actually looks like a real football player
Yeah.
throwing the football.
Well, and I also love it because, and I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit because this is something that I believe in. But we've gotten, especially in the age of social media and TV channels that were, every sporting event is recorded. College football and pro football has become such a big deal, and there's a stigma, not by everybody, because obviously I cover high school sports and I see packed stadiums every week. But there is a stigma out there where some people think it's weird that if you don't have a kid playing or a family member to go to, or you're not in school currently to go to a high school a football game or a sporting event in general. And I think that's messed up because I mean high school football, I mean, it's about as pure as it gets. I mean, you have 99% of these players are never going to play again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it. And so I thought this was a good movie. I mean, it really just shows you, what small town high school football is all about.
Which I think it depends on your reasons for coming to the games, whether it's weird or not. I mean, in the movie, you see
Yes.
Tim McGraw's character, weird. All the businessmen that were talking to the coach about what defenses they need to run, all that's weird.
Yeah.
But if you're there to support your school, support your team, and support the kids, then there is nothing weird about that. I mean, it's good. It is. There's something pure. It used to be. Big school athletics, I don't know how pure it is anymore, but smaller school athletics, I think there's more pureness about it because, I mean, it's your kids in your community. It's not necessarily like these academies that people come out, all these studs go to, but there's pureness to it, and I'm hoping, and I know NIL is getting in different places, and I hope that doesn't ruin high school athletics, but the pureness of people just of kids playing games. And like you said, 99% aren't going to the next level. And that is the beauty of the sport, of high school athletic, period.
Yeah.
Now, again, I am biased being a former football and basketball coach, too.
But yeah, that's how I would put it too. I mean, yeah, you're gonna see it in this movie. There's people that see high school as the glory days and never kind of grow up from high school. I mean, that's too much. But like you said, I mean, if you're supporting your community, I mean, you should, especially if you live in a small town. I get it if
Yeah.
you live in a big city, it's different. But if you live in a small town, go out and support. Those kids that are playing on the
Mm-hmm.
field, they deserve your support. I mean, if
Oh
you
yeah, for
if you
sure.
play high school football or high school sports, I'm sure you remember what it was like to play in a packed stadium. I would want if I enjoyed that, so I would want those kids to be able to enjoy that too. But that's just how I view it.
Well, it's one of those things that you look at the packed stadiums and things of that nature. I wish I had this. And granted, I don't know what if our audience knows that I am from Texas. I lived in Texas. I played in Texas. I coached in Texas for a while also. Uh, Unfortunately, I grew up in the suburbs of Houston, so I didn't have the small town community support. We were a bunch of different neighborhoods that came together and were that were in a school. It was a brand new school, so again, we were setting traditions from day one. So looking at the Permian type of stuff that you see, it just I'm like, oh man, I wish we could have had that. I wish we could have had just all that dying support. But I mean, when you literally, my first 2 years of high school, we didn't have a varsity football team because of the fact that we were a brand new high school. I mean, our first year we only had freshmen and sophomores in our school. So we weren't able to have that, and so looking at stuff like that, even around here in small town Alabama, you see it, and it's just like, man,
Mm-hmm.
it's cool. It is a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about and Dakota. We're gonna give you time to speak
Oh, you go
at
good. Go
some
ahead.
point. But I think here in Alabama, obviously there are some really big schools and big communities, but for the most part, even the schools that play in some of the bigger classifications are still pretty small towns.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, there's really we just get that a lot. I don't. There's just not a whole lot of I would say communities that don't know that big town feel. But anyways, yeah, Friday Night Lights came out in October 8th, 2004. It made $62 million on a budget of $30 million, and it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 82%. It's an American sports drama film co-written and directed by Peter Berg. The film follows the coaches and players of a high school football team in the Texas city of Odessa. It was based on a book called Friday Night Lights: A Town, a Team, and a Dream that came out in 1990 by H.G. Bissinger. And the movie stars Billy Bob Thornton, Derek Luke, Jay Hernandez, Lucas Black, Garrett Hedlund, and Tim McGraw.
I will tell you this, and we have talked about the three different vessels of this title: the book, the movie, and the TV show, and all three deliver something completely different.
Mhm.
Because if you read the book, it's not really a football book. It is kind of a social expose of the city of Odessa, talking about the racial issues, talking about the socioeconomic issues, talking about the oil boom and bust. It's a fascinating book to read, but it also has football stories like the sadness that you talk about from the Boobie Miles situation. Again, I recommend anybody that likes to read and wants to read something that's about football, but it's not just football. It is a fantastic read. A matter of fact, when I took a Texas history class in college, it was one of our required readings. Now, before you say anything, my professor was from Massachusetts, so he thought it was fascinating too, because again, you see these just hardcore, crazy people that are uh, supporting the football programs, are involved in it, and just it's just very interesting reading, and I strongly suggest anybody read the book.
Which is interesting you said that. I've had that on my shelf for I don't know. I think somebody got that book for me when I was a teenager, or maybe I found that at a yard sale or something, and somebody bought it for me. But I've never read it. I don't really know why I've never read it, but watching this movie really did make me want to go back and actually read it.
I know I joked earlier, mostly because I just like making fun of Ernie because he's the same age as my dad, and I make practical jokes with my dad all the time. But I'm very surprised I haven't read this book, obviously, because yeah, I concur with Dakota. I'm probably gonna have to break it out, but the movie is great. The TV show is really good too. The first season I think is one of the best seasons of any TV show that I've ever seen. After that,
Were
it's
we
okay.
supposed to watch the TV show for
No,
this?
no, no. I was
No, I
just
haven't. No, I haven't.
well, I would recommend the first season at least. And really, if you didn't watch any past that, you would be all right. But the first season is extremely good, and it's got a
But
lot of
before
the.
we
I'm sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's got multiple of the same characters, and not okay. It's got multiple of the same actors and actresses from the movie that are in the. It's not the same characters. It's a completely different story. But Ernie.
Well, before we get started, just in to make sure we know that where my biases are coming in from. Again, growing up in Houston, Odessa Permian and Dallas Carter were evil programs. Because they were so good all the time. I didn't like either program. So that is one of those things. And also having a tough time swallowing the inaccuracies in the movie is also influencing on me watching this. So again, going into this, I want our listeners to know that me growing up at this time, because this 1988, the football season, I was a sophomore in high school. Yes, I'm that old. So there is some bias coming into this. So I just want to make sure you might hear that come out. And so I'm trying to separate the movie from the details of the movie also.
Which I did try to go into that with this mindset, and it could be that I'm just not. I mean, I like sports. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not as into sports as both of y'all are, and I tried to pick those out, but I guess it's just because I guess I did notice it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I come into it with anytime a movie is based on a true story. I mean, most of the time it's especially something like this. Like, I think I said it on another podcast, but remember the Titans? I mean, there's really hardly anything in that movie that's accurate, but it's still a great movie, and I mean, it could be worse. I don't. Arnie, I know you don't watch scary movies, but The Strangers, they say that's based on a true story, but it's not even it's not even close to based on a true
a lot of
story.
them aren't.
Well, okay, so might as well dish this out right now. Like the playoff run, why not use the real teams that they actually played in the playoffs? Like their first round playoff game was Dallas Jesuit. Private schools didn't play in Texas football, the public school football, until 2003, 2004. So they wouldn't be playing Dallas Jesuit in the playoffs. Like their playoff run all the way together, there was only one team that was Irving Nimitz that they actually said on the movie. So the other three teams prior, other than Nimitz, they didn't even play. And then now I understand this. Now I do understand this move because Dallas Carter and Permian did not play in the state championship game.
In the second round of the playoffs, right?
It was the semis, I believe, semifinals.
Oh, it was the semis? Okay.
Yes. Now, it makes for a better story. So
yes,
I don't have an issue with. The other thing is they also didn't play in the Astrodome. They played in Texas, in Memorial Stadium at the University of Texas. But if you ever watched the videos of that, if your parents ever had indoor, outdoor turf and they took a mower to it, that's what the turf was like at Memorial Stadium in Texas. It was also raining, so it's hard to recreate that, so I can understand that choice also, even though that score was 14-9 instead of 34-28.
Yeah, well, 14-9 is not very cinematic.
Boring. Yes, it's boring. Yeah, I understand that.
But they were, I was going to say they were like the only team, though, in that playoff run that even played Dallas Carter close.
Yeah.
Because Dallas Carter was, I don't know if any of those players that were real, but Dallas Carter as a school that season was real and legitimate and very good.
There is a 30 for 30 about them that ESPN has produced and talked about literally how they got away with everything at school, and like it ended up catching catching up with some of them, and they actually had to relinquish their state title because they played an ineligible player that year. So, but yeah, I mean, they were monsters. They were a tough team. So again, that is kind of the basis of some things, which I don't know if we want to talk about the Astrodome right now.
No, we'll get into that later.
Okay, because I want to talk about the Astrodome itself.
Yeah.
It may break people's hearts about the Astrodome if you have anything positive to think about the Astrodome.
Well, let's get into the movie. So,
okay.
As preseason practice begins for the Permian High School football team in August 1988, the town of Odessa, Texas has high expectations for the players and their coach, Gary Gaines, to win a state championship with their star running back, James Booby Miles. The quarterback, Mike Rinchell, runs under the expectation of handing off the ball to Miles on most plays. Fullback Don Billingsley struggles with his ball handling and is abused by his alcoholic father, Charles, who won a state championship with Permian. The players frequently party as they deal with the pressures of Odessa's expectations. So we open up, we don't open up right at practice as the paragraph suggests. We kind of get like a feel where the players are coming in, and there's a backdrop of the radio, which sounds like Feinbaum, but it's high school football. Which in 1988 in Texas, I have no problem believing that was a thing.
100%.
It did crack me up when they were talking about, was it crazy that they're paying him $60,000 a year? Because I'm like, here in Alabama, a big school high school football coaches made well over 100K.
What was it?
Again, that is also 1988.
Hey, again, I don't have any problem believing that at Permian High School in Texas in 1988, the football coach, or any high school that's good in Texas for that matter, is making more than the principal. I don't have a hard time believing that at all.
Which, like Major League, this does a good job of showing you what the town was like going into the movie.
But it's the complete opposite. Whereas
exactly, yes,
Cleveland was all about how much they sucked. This is about how much they win and the pressure that all these kids are under.
And then whenever you see, though, Odessa itself, it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you got pump jacks all over the place because it's an oil town. And again, it's in the middle of nowhere. You see dirt, you see dust, you see heat. It's hot out there, and there ain't no shade tree to go climb underneath, which I would have to. We have a lot of precautions now with heat, and you have to have only do so much hours of workouts for football. You have to kind of gently get into it. I can tell you this. In 1988, if you weren't climatized, you weren't climatized. So guess what? You better suck it up. I guarantee you, in the middle of Odessa, Texas, they were going through 2-a-days, and they're
and 110-degree heat.
Man, it was miserable in Houston area going through that, and it was I can't imagine doing it there. And again, with hardcore type of thing, the hardcore people all around too. That's just that makes me cringe right there thinking of that.
There's so much in the first practice that I'm not a coach, but I have, as a reporter, I've been to several practices. There's so much going on that I'm like, yeah, that don't happen. First of all, the 2-a-days, that's not a thing anymore. I was trying to think what else. The bull in the ring drill. Yeah, that's not. There was something else you mentioned that's not a thing anymore, but I can't remember what it was. Oh well.
In 1988, it was.
Yeah.
Like the whole entire thing. It's like a county fair or whatever, where you're going from different station to different station, doing different drills.
Starting the first day of practice in full pads. Yeah, that's not a thing either.
Yeah, now it isn't. You're right.
Yeah, nowadays you have to. What is it, like shorts the first day, and then
shorts and a helmet. And I've stopped paying.
It's definitely not full pads the first day. I can tell you that.
I can tell you this. My coaches in high school would say, "Well, that's the wussification of America." They also would tell me that you bunch of blue-eyed, wonder-bred white boys are scared too. So I mean. There's some other things that they say that I will not say on this podcast. So,
but yeah, so I mean, interesting first practice. To kind of, I mean, again, it just kind of sets the stage of what high school football is, and not just Texas, but at
I
this
think it was
town.
in the time frame. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because you got TV. I mean, look, as a reporter, I've been to practice, but I can't ever remember a practice where there's all these TV reporters just there, or all these people just watching in the stands.
now again, that's the one thing I never saw that. But when I came out here and I was at Lawrence County High School, I saw people like when they should be working, coming out watching practice, and I was like, well, "Are you kidding me? This is
No, it's
this
a
is high
Is that
thing.
a for real
And
thing?
I still don't understand that. I don't understand that. I don't understand that in Odessa Permian. I don't understand it in Lawrence County, Alabama. I don't understand. I'm going to come out there and watch practice. I mean,
Oh,
I
it's
mean, one of the comments on the interviewing on the radio, it said something about that. Like, I have season tickets and I have I go to all the practices, all the scrimmages, all this or something like that.
yeah,
It was just a bizarre comment to me.
it's definitely a thing. I mean, people go and watch practice. That's definitely a thing. But I just meant to the extent. I mean, it was not a packed stands, but it was. I mean, a good bit of people there.
yeah,
Probably more than I've
yeah.
ever seen at a practice that I've
yeah. I
been
mean, especially
to.
when the dad comes out in the stands.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It just
Yeah,
snatches his son for fumbling the ball.
and that's got to be a thing where like I'm just thinking like if you're the head coach, like I'm not saying you have to like manhandle the dad or something, but you got to be like, hey, look, this is my field. You need to get off while we're
No,
or something.
I'll tell you this.
I don't feel like it would have went that far in 1988. I don't feel like it went that far today.
I don't know, but usually speaking, that's your defensive line coach that's going to step in front of that dad and tell him to sit down because that defensive line coach is probably the strongest son of a gun on the field, and he's probably also the meanest son of a gun on the field. And he probably grab that guy by the scruff and throw him back in the stands. But that guy is, even though he's a drunk, he won a state championship, so maybe they just allow him to come down there.
And then again, with like all these reporters like interviewing players, what reporter is interviewing the third string running back of a high school football team?
Agree.
They're like, so are you Booby's backup? So I'm actually the backup to Booby's backup. I'm like, what? Then why are you getting interviewed? And then as a reporter, I can definitely say Ivory's interview is something I relate to. Now I've never had a kid just not answer questions, but yeah, I've had some kids that are obviously not very comfortable being interviewed, and I actually had one kid tell me, I asked him a question, he just goes, nah. That was his answer. That was the whole answer.
Which again, I think they do of Christian. They do a good job of from the book. He was a serious party animal. Then something happened. I can't remember what happened where he just he turned straight and he really didn't love to play football. And that's one of those things they did a real good job of showing that in his character.
Yeah, and then so after practice, before we get to the next paragraph, we get to the part where they're at the I don't know what you would call it, a restaurant. It's like a
like a
outside.
diner.
It's like a Sonic, an old school Sonic type.
Yeah.
And then they go to the party, but it did crack me up because you had the guy that come up and ask for a picture, and he's like, get you one of these because it doesn't get any better than this. This is the best it gets. That's when we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. People that are weird about high school, going to high school game. That's the kind of people that are weird. The people that are stuck in the glory days and think that high school is as best as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I wasn't a great player, but I played for a great team. I have a state ring. It's in my office at work, but I don't wear it around. Now, granted, that's probably because I'm a little fatter now than I was in high school. But even when I was in high school, I didn't wear it around, and I don't. I enjoyed high school football, but I don't ever think. I don't want to go back, and I definitely don't think it's the best time of my life.
Well, I mean, he did say what he said. He said, "Do whatever you can." He said, "Because it's nothing but babies and memories after that." So again, it's one of those. We all know the guys. They peaked in high school, and that is the end all be all of their existence in high school. And I guess if you have a school where you're winning games and winning games and winning games, that is the pinnacle, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
Well, my identity has been wrapped up in being this type of football player. Now it's gone. And that's why the whole entire arc with Booby, it hits, especially being a coach. You see these kids that you have had forever, and they have kind of wrapped their identity in being that. And then it just, especially kids that get injured, and then it just, I mean, just like that, it's gone. It is, even though for the most part, Boobie's not a sympathetic
Yeah.
individual
Mm-hmm.
until he cleans out his locker and is in the car with his uncle, and he's like, I mean, that was their ticket out. And now he's living in Monahans, Texas, which makes Odessa look like New York City.
Yeah. So
I think the funniest moment in this, I mean, just to bring a little light to it, was when the guy pulled up and told him about the party.
And so is he 30-something years old or something?
He's like, isn't he like 35?
And then the Comer's girlfriend, who at the time he's the backup to the backup, she's like, I need to be with a ball carrier. Can I get a touchdown? I don't care about Boobie. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, he's sitting, he's a sophomore or whatever, sitting behind a guy that's going to USC or UCLA. Like, I don't think he's going to play that much. I feel like you have too high expectations. Well, anyways, in the season opener against the Marshall Bulldogs, the Permian Panthers make the game a blowout. Gaines intends to bench Miles in the waiting minutes, but keeps him in after third stringer Chris Comer misplaces his helmet, making him unprepared to go in. Miles is sent in, but tears his ACL after being tackled at the knee on the ensuing play. After the incident, Gaines endures a tense public backlash from the town. In the next game, during the start of district play, Permian gets blown out, and Winchell struggles with consistency. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because it's a long paragraph, and we'll just kind of eat in that. So, so this whole first game, look, I get the whole thing where Comer doesn't have his helmet, so it's like obviously he can't go in. If I'm up 42-7, my third string running back can go out without pads for all I care before I'm putting back my USC UCLA Division I future Heisman Trophy running back in the final minutes of a 42-7 game. So look, Gaines gets, I like Gaines a lot. He's obviously a great coach in this movie, or I don't know, I guess in real life too, but he does, the backlash he gets on the radio that he's listening to after this game, I think it's deserved. Like, it's a boneheaded move.
Where's the second string running back?
Yeah, that was my question. Was where's the other running back at? Why?
I will put an offensive lineman in to run the ball, a backup offensive lineman, before I put in Boobie Miles back in that game.
Yeah, that's one of those things. You also can call timeout if you see him run out in the field and you don't want him. But as you can tell, story-wise, he had a hard time telling Boobie no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, Boobie wasn't even like, "Hey, send me in, coach." He was like, "Boobie, go in there," because Boobie was on the bench.
Yeah, but he saw that opportunity, because again, that's more highlights for him. So that gave him a chance to pop out there, and especially probably cleanup duty with that other team. Depends on what the other team's doing with their defense also.
Yeah, and then you go in there, and I have mixed feelings about he gets the injury news. Obviously, they don't really know for sure, but I mean they have a good idea. And then he kind of goes and tells the team that he's going to be back within a week. I have mixed feelings because I get like you wanna keep your team's spirits up because they just lost their best player, but at the same time, like I don't know if I would go be like, hey, he's going to be back in a week. Like, they're going to find out pretty quickly that he's not going to be back within a week.
So my thoughts during that was, I think it's when it was coming in. Like if this was a halftime and you lost him right before the half, yeah, hey, he's going to be back next week. He's going to be fine. Keep their spirits up for the rest of the game. But I get when I was sitting here watching this and thinking, I was like, man, like, they're going to text him tomorrow, or call him tomorrow, or see him Monday at school and ask and be like, hey man, how are you doing? Like, what are the doctors saying? What are they thinking? He's gonna be like, I'm going to be out for a few weeks. Like, I think it was a bad call as a leader to go out and say something like that, because then it kind of proves you as a liar that. Which, I mean, I guess he could have plausible deniability, but whatever.
When did he say that? He said it after the game? Is that when he said
it?
Yeah,
Was
it was after
the
game.
He's meeting with the trainer, and the trainer's like,
oh yeah, it's torn. I definitely think it's torn.
I don't know if he said he thought it was torn, but he was like, he needs to get an MRI, or I can't remember exactly what he told him.
He said, I felt a tear in there.
And so then he's talking to the trainer before he's even met with the team after the game, and then he goes in and meets with the team, and he's like, he's gonna be all right. He's gonna be back within a week.
I think again, being in the shoes of that, I don't think it's as big a deal as to me, because again, you can always say, well, there's a different diagnosis or something like that. So I don't know. To me, that's not that big a deal. Would I say that? No, because I wouldn't make it all about one player. But I truly don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean,
no, I don't, yeah,
you
and
know,
I think
I think they also, if this was about the same, this is around the same time I was there. We had a doctor. His name was Doctor Needles, and Dr. Needles would shoot you up with cortisone and stuff like that, so you wouldn't feel stuff to be able to play. So that, I mean, now they didn't show a doctor, but I guarantee I will. If I was a betting man, even though I lose all my bets I've ever done, they had a Dr. Needles there too that could make him not feel his knee and not feel the pain and that kind of stuff. And I guess another example is my second year coaching in Texas, we had a quarterback that hurt his knee. He was set out a week, and it was, I think, a PCL tear. So they weren't sure how bad it was. So 2 weeks after that injury, we were going to see if he could play. So he went out there in pregame and then found out that no, he couldn't cut. He could run straight ahead, but he couldn't cut, kind of like Booby. So again, there is also that there are some tears that you can have in that knee and still play. So I mean, you know, y'all are right, and I agree and disagree with what y'all are saying also. So
no, I
yeah,
don't. I think that's a good. I mean, you're a coach, so obviously getting your opinion on it. I'm not a coach, and
Hmm.
Dakota is not a coach
I
either.
never even played football, so
So
I mean,
obviously,
back-to-back weeks, my last year coaching had one kid, one senior break his collarbone, and he was out. And then the next week, kid broke his leg, and I, I, I couldn't hide it. I think I teared up on the last one because the collarbone, I wasn't necessarily worried. I know collarbones are going to heal. You know, the leg injury, that shook me. That shook me really bad. So that injuries, which that's I mean the whole entire thing about this is I think Gaines's uh, idea of he didn't talk to the doctors. He only talked to the uncle, and so it's plausible deniability type of thing. I'm just gonna what I don't know won't hurt me type of thing,
yeah.
and I think if this is where I may get on my coaching soapbox. If you start putting wins above the kids, and if you're coaching at Permian, you are, then I do have an issue in it. And that may be why I probably wasn't as successful as a coach because to me, the kids were more important than the W's. And it probably affected my win loss record too. And you know what? I'm all right with that.
well, after the Panthers fall behind 14 in the next game, Comer comes into the game after the second string running back gets injured and helps Winchell and Billingsley get Permian's offense rolling again, leading them to a comeback win. Despite their small size, Permian's defense proves to be stout under the leadership of safety Brian Chavez and linebacker Ivory Christian, and the Panthers embark on a 5-game win streak. So, don't want to spend too much time on this because we've already talked a lot. But I did think we had so before you have the game where they start to win again, you have Coach Gaines come in and talk to crap Winchell,
Winsel.
Lucas Black's character
Yeah.
Winchell, which by the way I'm pretty sure that's a picture of him in a speak football uniform. Yeah, that they on the wall. So just a little Alabama Easter egg there. But and I get what he's saying. He's telling him, you have everything he's telling him about. Sometimes you have to be about yourself and think about. But at the same time, I was thinking like, okay, so his mom's sick, and you're like, hey, you need to focus on football. Like
Yeah.
that's not really what
I
he
think
was
in that
saying,
moment thing, yeah.
but it at one point it did kind of come across that way. But at the end of the day, I understand that's not really what he was saying.
I think one of the couple of things that I remember, and I'm not sure where it was in the process. It may have been after the first game, whenever was it Billingsley and Chavez were at the convenience store. They were. I mean, I don't know if y'all ever did this. I remember doing this. The convenience store microwavable burritos. They are so nasty. They're good. I mean, and I just watching them sit in. They're sitting in the convenience store. They're chowing down on these awful, but awesome burritos. I'm just thinking, and I'm just like, man, that's good times. I can I can remember that. And then something.
I'm not a burrito guy, so I can't.
Well, and then something also that hadn't aged very well is when Booby started talking about. I know you like Bill Cosby. He started talking about the pudding pops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, it made me think, like, what year did this movie come out? Like
2004.
2004. Like, so Bill Cosby, I think, was still in a good light at that time.
Yeah, it was a few years before. Yeah. So yeah, but yes, I guess not aging well.
You know what? Maybe one of the things that probably gave me the most PTSD was when that one booster or whatever came to Gaines's office. I like to introduce you to some guys, and those guys just start talking about the defenses that he should run and all this other kind of stuff, and just kind of like Billy Bob Thornton's got this like glazed look over his eyes, and just like, I know how much money I know y'all can control whether I'm going to be hired or fired, so I know I got to sit here and listen to this, even though y'all are all full of it. And it just that kind of made me kind of knee jerk reaction there.
Shoot. I was thinking about before the first game when they have the dinner, and the woman tells him, she calls him an N-word, and then she's like, "You play him both ways." Mm-hmm. I'm like,
if I'm his wife too, I'm like, woman, you need to get away from my husband. You're like really too up close and too personal there.
Which, going back to this, I know this is going back to an earlier theme, but didn't he say in that conversation that he was like, nah, I don't want to take my potentially D1 running back and play him and risk him getting injured?
Yep.
And then he did that in the first game.
Foreshadowing. But he didn't do it playing both ways.
But he did do it playing both ways, though. So,
hey, I mean, he made one smart coaching decision there.
Yeah, that was.
He just put him into play because his third string running back couldn't find his helmet. Okay. It's fine.
Which, to play both ways at big school Texas football didn't happen. Yeah. You didn't see that happen.
I didn't figure it did.
But it was a very rare instance that
especially
you saw
if you're
that happen.
Division I running back prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had one kid in Texas that did it. He was a tight end defensive end that ended up playing at University of Houston while he also played the tuba at halftime. He was an all-state tight end, and he was an all-state tuba player too.
It's a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I mean, he was smart. I don't know if he said in the 2 years that I coached him, I don't think I heard him say more than 3 words either. But he'd always have those little grins on his face, and you're like, okay, Jonathan, I see you.
Well, Miles holds out hope that he can return to playing soon. Unfortunately, his MRI scan shows that he needs immediate knee surgery and cannot play for the rest of the season. Miles boldly denies the severity of his knee injury and lies to Gaines so he can suit up again, with his uncle and legal guardian LV advocating for him. Permian plays its final district game against Midland Lee with first place and a playoff berth on the line. The Panthers fall behind, but Gaines puts Miles in out of desperation. But Miles is soon injured again. Winchell leads a comeback drive, but Permian ultimately loses as his final pass flies over the receiver's hands. After the game, Billingsley fights with his drunk father, who throws his state championship ring onto the side of the freeway. And then, wait, where's the coin toss?
It's after.
Oh, okay.
It's coming. While that's going on, while that's going on, Gaines and Winchell are driving there.
Yeah, this is such a long paragraph. The next morning, Don reveals to his father that he recovered the championship ring and gives it back to him. Charles partially apologizes and makes the point that the state championship was the best thing that happened to him, and now he has nothing happy except those moments. The loss puts so we go back to the previous night. The loss puts Permian in a 3-way tie for first place with Lee and Abilene Cooper, and a coin toss is held to determine which 2 teams make the playoffs. Permian and Lee win the toss, and make the playoffs. Booby Miles clears his locker while in his uncle's car. He cries about his future being bleak now that his promising football career has ended. All right, so
we need to have a page break somewhere.
Yeah,
well, I went ahead and went through the whole because we're already at 45 minutes.
Yeah, this one's this one's going to be a long one. So
I just went ahead and read the whole paragraph. I was going to stop halfway through, but I decided to just go ahead and read the rest of it. So yeah, a lot to unpack in that paragraph. Starting with obviously Booby goes to get his MRI, and apparently just has
there's a conspiracy.
Okay, so look, I get it though because I'm not from Texas, so maybe Ernie can expound on this, even though he's not from that area. But I do remember, I can't remember what his name was, but he played at Oklahoma, I think, and then later for the Cowboys. I can't remember what his name was, but I remember they asked him about playing in the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry, I think, and he was about the pressure of it and never having played in a game that big. And he said something like, "Oh, I used to play in the Permian and Midland Lee rivalry."
Yes.
So guys, I mean,
Midland Lee is your rich yuppie. That's not a term now, but you're kind of a rich upper crust crew, whereas you have Odessa itself is already second level as far as socioeconomic to Midland, but they're even more. It's kind of like the rednecks versus the preps. So that's kind of what, and it's a bloodbath between those two schools. So yes, that is a big deal there.
So the whole thing of like you're from Midland, so you're trying to screw me over. I get it.
Yeah,
but I mean, for real though. Man, what kind of guidership? I don't even think that's a word.
Guardian.
Yes, I was trying to go guiding and then advice and guardian in all in one word apparently. So I just made up a word. But so I understand that he's got a knee injury, but at this point, you can come back from knee injuries. So.
But again, you're thinking in 2020s type.
Yeah,
of
I guess that's true.
This is, knee injuries. You want to get that scholarship. You want to get that scholarship because again, they are banking. He and his uncle looking at the house that they live in, looking at the life they live in. Again, to be black and then be at Odessa, it ain't a great thing. Because again, it was a racist, probably still is a racist town at that time period. So again, for Booby to try to get a scholarship, and the only way to kind of do that, because again, running backs are a dime a dozen, and if you're not seen, you're probably not going to get a scholarship offer. So
this was the senior year too, wasn't it?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was the senior year. So this was his chance to go and do this. But now the problem is that since he didn't get the surgery early on, he never had the rehab and things of that nature that he needed, and so when he went to junior college, he just wasn't the same running back that he was. But again, the mentality of this is the only way I can escape Odessa is by this. This is the only way that I can take care of my uncle that took care of me. It's a different mentality.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the big thing that stood out to me through this whole scene that we're talking about here, and it is a little bit of a different take from the movies, but hey, Tim McGraw plays a very good drunk.
Yes.
I know it sounds weird, but
I think you're right.
Like he played a really good drunk, angry dad. Just all of the scenes that he was in, it really feels like the stereotypical not really stereotypical, but like a real life, something you would actually see that took place, like him verbally berating his kid, but also the guy who played Booby, his whole acting through this whole scene, him breaking down in the car,
was
that was real.
That was the most powerful scene of the movie for me.
Oh, easily.
I agree.
And kudos to who I don't know who the actor is, but he did a great job in this.
That was the best acting short of Tim McGraw chugging milk out of a jug like a psychopath. It's
okay, no.
What, you drink milk out of a jug like that?
Absolutely, I do.
You psychopath! You are.
Gross.
Oh my goodness, that's all.
How?
Couth. Mike, there's
Have some
cups.
coos.
Use a
There's
cup and glass.
nobody in my house but me and my wife.
Oh,
Who else is going to drink out of that milk
goodness.
jug? And my wife doesn't even drink the milk. It's just me.
Oh, my goodness. Goodness gracious, son.
But yeah, through this, so everything we go through this whole paragraph is probably the best part of the movie, honestly. And Ernie, you made good points about, and I get it. I guess just me being younger, I'm just looking at, hey, get the knee surgery, come back, you'll be fine. And then it goes and gets it. It just kills me to go and see him get even more hurt. But I understand where you're coming from, and that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, you get that, and then you get Tim McGraw, who's playing the perfect guy who, like you said earlier, was a superstar in high school.
Yes.
He talked to the newspapers, and now he's working a 9-to-5 job, and he's not important anymore, and he doesn't know how to grow up. And so you see all that, and then we get to and then we get to Boobie in the car, which breaks my heart because I've seen a lot of high school athletes have injuries like that, and but then we also get the they come close to beating Midland Lee. Winchell throws the pass too high, and then you get him after the game just kind of crying. I get that too. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yes, I have too.
And the agony of defeat, especially football and I love baseball and I love basketball too, but football, you only play one game every week, and you only play 10. You're only guaranteed. I don't know how it was back then, but you're only guaranteed 10.
6, wasn't it?
No, you would pay more than 6.
No, it's 10 games.
Yeah, you're
only. I mean now, but
because I've used that in my speech over and over again that you're only guaranteed 10 games, and I mean so. It's just. Another part was when Boobie got hurt. He's down on the ground, he's hurt, and one of the Midland League guys is trying to gouge his eyes out, too, in that. Which the only time I've ever had anxiety ridden is in a pileup, because anything and everything is getting hit, pulled, turned, crunched, and it's a free for all. And it's just one of those things where, okay, I need some air somewhere. I need some air, and that's that gave me PTSD as a player there.
So funny story. When I was in high school, I actually got rolled up, and I got the bottom of the pile. So I'm getting sit on, and I'm getting beat up, and our running back fumbles. And so I just see the ball just lying there, and I'm trying to reach it, but I had so many guys on me, I couldn't move. So it was just out of my grasp. But yes, so I don't. A lot of
which also, I didn't realize in this, but I didn't realize that the actual determine who went to the playoff was determined by a coin toss.
All right, so here we go. So here we go, darlings.
Me and Ernie are going to get on a soapbox here.
Pull up a chair, because as great as Texas high school football is, tiebreakers are dumb. This coin toss is the real deal. My sophomore and junior year, Dickinson High School lost the coin toss 2 years in a row. So 3-way tie 2 years in a row. That's why they later came up to what they call big 5A and small 5A. So they would have 4 teams from a district go to the playoffs. The 2 biggest teams that had the best records go to the big 5A. 2 smallest teams go to the small 5A. But I know this is a little bit fast forward, but when they showed the scoreboard over and over and over again in the Astrodome, if you notice next to the clock, you saw first downs. Well, darlings, we didn't have overtime. So how do you determine the winner? First is first downs.
Oh my gosh. That's so stupid.
You haven't heard the second one. The second one was how many times you got the ball inside your opponent's 20-yard line. That was number 2 of how you didn't determine who won the game on the field. There was no overtime. There was no overtime in college football either at this time either. So talk about crazy, because you could sit. I can remember being in the Astro and watching playoffs, looking at a close game, looking at the first downs and seeing who had the most first downs, and that may come into play. That is just absolutely nuts to me now. Just thinking about that,
Yeah, I mean that's crazy because what if you have a team that's just, I mean, they're just out there, like they're just, hey, we'll run the ball up right up the middle for 75 yards every time. I mean, that's only one. If you have another team that's having, 8 to 10 first downs per, touchdown, like, no, that's so dumb.
I mean,
I'm
you also have
sorry.
you've got the ball inside the 20 how many times, but you don't score with it. That to me is like,
Yeah,
okay, you're rewarding them for not scoring. It's so again,
for
that whole
choking,
entire
yeah,
thing,
getting all
it
the way
is
to the
true.
end and choking.
The coin toss is true. It is dumb.
Oh
But
yeah,
here's the crazy thing in Alabama. I know in 2008, when we were at East Lawrence, coin toss. But we went through like 5 different pages of tiebreakers. Like we
Yes.
actually lost, but that helped us get tied, and then we somehow won the coin toss. It was crazy. At least though, it was the last thing though.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I was going to get to. So now, and I've had to deal with this because coaches, obviously, they have a lot going on, and so they come to me if there's tiebreakers, and they're like, "So what's going to happen?" So now they have literally like, when it comes to tiebreakers, they have like, it's like bullet points, and it's like A, B, C, D, E,
Yeah.
F, and it goes way down there. And then at the very last one, I think is a coin toss. I don't think anything. I don't think it's come to a coin toss. I'm assuming. I think it's. I haven't looked at them because it's a lot, and I've had to go through it before, and it is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I guess that's better than just a straight up coin toss.
Yeah.
But
I actually didn't think this was real. So I looked it up, and I actually found the YouTube video where you can see the actual coin toss.
100% real. That's the crazy thing about it.
Yeah, that I didn't realize that was a crazy thing to me.
Well, Permian is successful in the playoffs, but all eyes are on the state powerhouse Dallas Carter High School. Permian and Carter make it to the state championship game, which is held at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, which is Ernie's backyard. Miles rejoins the team and watches from the sidelines as the Panthers head into the game. They are initially overwhelmed by Carter's superior size and fall behind, although an interception by Christian helps get them on the board before halftime. In the second half, Carter gains a 20-point lead after a pass on fourth down, which hit the turf first. However, Permian's defense improves its tackling and the offense pushes through despite injuries and scores 14 unanswered points to cut the deficit to 6. They stop Carter on 4th and inches and have 75 yards to go in 2 minutes. They get down to close to the game, but Billingsley takes the ball to the 1-yard line on 4th down, but the play is called back due to a holding penalty. With 2 seconds left, Winchell desperately runs the ball to the goal line, but is stopped just short, and Carter wins the championship. As the Permian players soak in the defeat, Billingsley reconciles with his father. So, yeah, I kind of skimmed through that paragraph a little bit, but I wanted to get through the whole thing because we are running so behind.
Mm-hmm.
So, real quick, and I'll try to shut up, but the whole entire scene between the Dallas Carter coaches and the Permian coaches about deciding where to play, you're not one. Nobody was going to play a home game there in Texas, unlike in Alabama where the team with the best record usually gets to host. It's almost all neutral sites. Like any given weekend early in the playoffs, the Astrodome will host. They'd hosted like 2 games on Thursday night, 3 games on Friday night, and like 4 games on Saturday. So a bunch of different people. So that's why in real life the game was played at the University of Texas because it's more of a neutral site. So that was kind of iffy. And then the officials, I thought the state usually told you who your officials were going to be, not you're telling people who the officials are going to be. But that's little behind the scene magic right there of that.
Yeah, I don't. So, well, first off, here at Alabama, the first round to the semifinals we play on campus, but I can't imagine a state championship not being played at a neutral site.
Yeah, I mean
that would not be fair to either side. So, yeah. So, but as far as I don't, it's just the whole media. I can't imagine this taking place where you're just the 2 coaches are like, what stadium are we going to play in? So, like, first off, wouldn't you need to get this cleared with the stadium like beforehand? And then them just deciding, well, what crew are we going to use, and then are we going to an intact crew? Like all of that, like just did not seem realistic to me.
So
how far apart are these high schools?
Pretty far. It's Texas.
Dallas, yeah,
well,
Dallas.
I mean, that's what we were talking about before, but
they're probably 6 hours away from each other. I mean, there's nothing in between them, really isn't. But so again, behind the scene type of thing. If you know you're going in the playoffs, you're talking to the people you think you're playing, and you're trying to get a neutral site. At that time when I was coaching, there weren't very many turf fields. So that's another reason why you see these meccas in Texas with a bunch of turf fields, because they can host playoff games. But at that time, you didn't really see it. So they are talking to each other, and they are talking with each other to try to get these done quickly. So, Caleb, if you and I have a team that we're playing, I want to play close to me, and you want to play close to you, and neither one of us can agree on it. Basically, what we'll do, there's a coaching book that has all the schools and all the coaches in it, and you will say odd or even, and I'll say what page number, and so we'll turn to that page number, and if that school's zip code is an odd, and you chose odd, we're going to go to the neutral site that's closer to yours. If we go even, then we're going to the one that's closer to mine. So yeah, you do schedule out, but you do have to know in advance. But at this point in time, what you don't see also with, if this is quote unquote the state finals, there's probably another game being played at that same site in the Astrodome also. Just not because they centralize all of them, but that's how it usually is. So in the playoffs, like I told you earlier, the Astrodome on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday played somewhere around like 9 games in that weekend. So again, that is how the coaches did discuss where they were going to play, and they had to call early to these places, especially early in the playoffs, to see if they were open.
So we get to the game. I gotta ask this because I'm dying. I've always wanted to know this. Now we have what I think is, like I said when we did Major League. This is also one of my favorite scenes in a sports movie, where they're walking out of the tunnel onto the field. Makes for a great scene, but it couldn't have possibly been that packed, right? I know football is big in Texas, but I have a hard time believing it was that packed for a high school football game.
I don't remember. I don't remember I remember looking at the stands, but I can tell you, if it was just those teams, you probably had the bottom bowl of the Astrodome field.
I can believe the bottom bowl.
Now, again, if there was another game there, now you're talking about the upper levels. There's starting to be people there too, but it's not going to be the whole entire dome is not going to be filled. Nowadays, there may be a better chance of something happen like that, but usually the bottom bowl is going to be filled with some of the topper levels going to be going to. There's going to be a lot of people there.
Yeah, I would assume there would be a lot of people there, but packed out to the way it was, I just always have a hard time believing that. So I assumed it wasn't entirely real, but I had to ask.
So I don't know what the capacity of the Astrodome was in 1988, but according to online stats, because this is apparently something that somebody keeps up with, the 1988 state championship conference 5A game had an attendance of 24,760 people.
The Astrodome has a capacity of 70,000.
I'm trying to figure out who Dallas Carter played also that game too.
Converse Judson.
So you're talking about the San Antonio team. So it may have had it. Converse Judson was a juggernaut, but I don't think it had the following that Odessa did. I'd be interested to see what the semifinal attendance was between Dallas Carter and Odessa at University of Texas.
If it had more minutes.
But the whole entire scene, though, it was really well played out as far as the actions and stuff like that. Other than the running backs have been getting hammered all day long. Then all of a sudden, the guy who fumbles all the time can now break 37 tackles, with a dislocated shoulder also. But still, for the most part, I really liked. I really kind of liked the football action that was in there. It played really well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Crap. What was I going to say? Except the only thing that I didn't like about the football action is first of all, him bringing out the opening kickoff.
Yeah.
That was, but you're starting with the ball at the 3 yard line, and they call in the first play a 3 or 5 step drop. So immediately I'm like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But other than that, yes, the action was great.
No,
Yeah, I wanted to ask, the Astrodome is still around, right? I mean, I know they don't
yeah,
do.
it doesn't get used anymore. It was when I was coaching in there, and it was awful turf. The Astrodome was awful. The one goal line, you could look down it and you could start to see where it kind of widened because it wasn't straight. Uh, and then, if you don't know anything about the Astrodome, it was used for football and for baseball. When you walk on the field, you can hear the hollow spot where they would bring up the pitcher's mound. They'd bring up the pitcher's mound up, and that's how they got rid of it for football games. They'd drop it down, but you could hear the kang 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 whenever you stepped over that. And I'm not a punt returner, never been a punt returner, but we were practicing in the Astrodome one day. It was like mid afternoon. Somebody punted a ball up, and those tiles are like white, I guess opaque or something like that. And I lost the ball. I don't know how anybody catches anything when looking up straight at those when it's not nighttime. It was crazy. But the Astrodome at that point in time didn't look as good as what it did in the movie. It was. I would rather play at other places other than the Dome. But the Dome is the Dome. So it is. It's an icon, but it was not it wasn't a good place to play.
But so we go through the game. They get behind. Was it 26-6 or something? They come back. You get the great halftime speech first from Ivory. The guy, the Stone Cold Assassin, who all of a sudden breaks out. It's all So that made for a good speech, and then you get the speech from Gaines, and so come back in the second half. Look, I can't just from a football, if a team, especially in high school, if a team is really good offensively, if you're having to hold them for 4 downs every drive, man, that would be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I like how we get into zone coverage, and like Ivory, who's never dropped back in pass coverage or whatever, drops back and intercepts it, but it is what it is.
I like how the coach is in the press box on the headset. He's like, they're killing us with their size. Like they're all the stuff they're saying is just mostly plays and stuff, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, they're killing us with their size.
Oh yeah, what's crazy is when they first walk out, I swear the first guy that walks out for Dallas Carter, if he ain't 35 years old, I don't know what he is, because he looked 35 years old when he walked out of the locker room. And then when the coach was talking to Ivory, and he talked about that they were fast, they were big, and they were strong, and they were fast. And the coach said, "You already said fast."
There were so many quotes from the final game that I thought you might use.
Mm-hmm.
You had that quote about being fast. You had the quote about if they score more points. If they score more points, that's in the final game, right? If they score more points than we do.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
And then first, I feel like if I was a coach, I would be Gaines, because he said all this stuff, great grandma's drawers and golly bum.
Golly bum is definitely one that I've heard over and over and over again. My favorite saying that one of our coaches always said was, "I got a pet rock smarter than you." And we always looked at, we didn't say anything to him, but we were like, well, how smart is Coach? He's got a pet rock, but he would always say that.
And then you also had Ivory in his halftime speech where he says, if the ref hit anybody out there, if the ref gets in your way, hit him too.
Which also is something that you said that we don't see anymore. Whenever Dallas Carter throws an interception and you get the peel back blocks by Permian, I was like, oh man, I miss those. And now saying that, I was always on offense, so I was always getting peeled back on. So, there was one game we were playing, we threw an interception. This little pencil that comes out of nowhere, because I'm going to make a tackle, because all I did was play offense. So I finally got a chance to make a tackle. Didn't see this little cornerback come, and he just drills me, and I go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I'm sure nowadays I'd have a concussion. Then I did not. I just had a hard time finding my way back to the sideline.
I think we still called that a concussion back then too.
No, I just had my bell rung. I was all right. I was good. I mean, I knew I was still in the state of Northwest Oklahoma or something like that.
Didn't that happen to one of the players in the movie where he was trying to run to Carter's
Yes, the corner or Comer.
Comer,
Yeah, the cheerleader shoved him.
I remember when I got one of my concussions, telling the guy that hit me after it was in practice, I was like, "Man, you hit me really good." And then the next day, I got diagnosed with a concussion. But so we get the final drive, and I remember watching this for the first time. So I had when I watched this for the first time, I knew nothing about the team or anything, so I didn't know what happened. So I remember being very into it, and thinking they were going to score or win the game, and they didn't. So it's what sports movies always go one or two ways. Either of course they go one or two ways. That's a stupid thing to say. But obviously they're either going to win, it's going to be super happy, or they lose in a crushing, very dramatic defeat. But I remember this one, watching it being very out of some of the sports losses I've seen in movies. This one probably affected me the most. It was
this one hit a little harder. I don't know why, but
and then the music playing afterwards, and then them on the field as Dallas Carter celebrate. I mean, is a very very emotional. The music was really good, and then to me, it felt like a very accurate representation of not just a team losing a state championship, but a high school team losing its last game, where all these seniors are now done and they're never going to play football again. So very well done by the director and everything.
The only thing that the ending I did not like, and I didn't think followed anything the characters showed us, was Tim McGraw's character going out there hugging his son and giving him the state ring. To me, I don't think that dad would have.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
So
I know we want to feel good, but again, that doesn't much of as a horse's tail as he was. I just didn't. I don't see that.
I think it would have been better if they just added an extra scene or something, because there really wasn't that. There wasn't that moment, where you have that I can't think of what the word I'm looking for is. Oh man, I'm always forgetting what I'm trying to say.
Closure?
Yes, no, not closure, but that
reconciliation or something.
That moment where they kind of and then he starts to be more of a good dad, a dad, and then it would lead to that there wasn't really that. I mean, you kind of had it when he throws the state ring out, and then his son gets it, and they're talking the next morning. But I mean, still, it wasn't really a moment, because he was still you don't get it, you don't understand. So
I'm
it wasn't
not apologizing, but I'm
So he so it was semi, but not really. So I think if they just added that extra scene in there, it would have just a little bit more. It would have. But overall, I mean, it's a very small nitpick to ending to a great movie.
And I did like how they closed it out with was it Chavez, Billingsley, and Winchell or whatever his name is. Just that okay, football season's over with. What do I do now?
Yeah. and this this really I like the ending, not just because of that, but because obviously they're going through what the characters did after their football careers, and then at the end you find out that Gaines and Comer won a state championship the very next season.
Yeah.
So for these coaches like Gaines, there's a next season, but for these kids, for the majority of them,
immediately taking the names off the board and put them in with different names.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's tough for him. Yeah. I mean, it's always tough for a coach to lose seniors you love. But, I mean, he's just going to put new names on that depth chart, and they're going to go try to win a state championship the next season, which they did. For those seniors, that was it. I mean, not for all of them. Some of them, Ivory went and played football and, whatever. And there's going to be some players play college football, but for the vast majority of them, that's it. You're never going to play football again. And that's
out of all of them, though, you only had two, didn't you? You only had Booby, who went and played JUCO, and then you had Ivory. Christian, who went and played D1.
Well, said, and then it said Winchell played Baylor.
He walked
on. Yeah, he got a scholarship.
Yeah.
But that you put all. It's like he said in his speech. You spend 10 years playing this game, and then after that it's over. So
that's it. Yeah.
The beauty of high school football, and also the tough parts of high school football. But that brings to a close. I'm sorry, Dakota. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good. It was just one cool little fact about this was one of the assistant coaches for Permian throughout the movie was actually Booby, like the actual guy.
Okay.
Oh,
He played a cameo. He cameoed throughout. He never had a line in it, but
yeah, I
he's
was gonna
seen
say
like
I
several
was
times
trying to
in the
remember. I
movie.
don't remember a black coach on Permian's side, but
I couldn't tell you, but
I did like.
according to this Wikipedia statement.
Well, that is an interesting fact I didn't know. All right, well, that brings to a close the movie review part. It only took us an hour and 15 minutes, so I can. And most of that was me and Ernie talking. Dakota is just here to look pretty.
Hey, I talked more in this one than I did in Major League, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm just picking at you, buddy. I mean, I'm also since you're here to look pretty, we're on a podcast.
Hey, you also told me that I have a really good face for podcasting.
You can feel pretty.
I agree.
Every day, Ferg, I feel pretty.
Well, I guess that means it's time to rank this movie. So, do we do? Oh wait, we got to do our individual number rankings first, right?
And then we give the category from there.
All right, who's going first?
Well, you.
I thought since I picked it.
No, you know don't break the system. Don't try to. You're reinventing the wheel. Go.
Okay,
you're the only one You're the only one that thinks about swaying the numbers. So
I do not think about swaying the numbers. That is
Dakota.
That is fake.
Tell
news.
me I'm
all right.
Fake
news. You didn't. You literally did this last week. Let me go last.
I was joking. I wasn't being serious.
We have a format, just like you introduced. Then it's Dakota and me and the stupid quotes. It's you, me, Dakota. Whenever we go into,
that's not true. I haven't always done my ranking first. So see, you're
because on Major League you wanted to. Let's give the numbers. We're digressing here.
Whatever. So
whatever, because you know we're right.
Whatever. Oh, so I guess I'll go first because Ernie says that's the way we do it every podcast. But yes, so. Yeah, obviously I picked this one, so I'm going to give it a high score because I've talked about it. It's not just a movie I just randomly picked; it was for a purpose. But yeah, like I said, ever since high school, I've watched this before the start of every football season, and that'll probably be something I do for the rest of my life. And it's because I think this is a really great movie. Again, I've said this probably a couple of times already. Remember the Titans. A great football movie, but it's about more than just football. But as far as pure football goes, I think this is the best football movie, and football is my favorite sport. So I'm going to give it a 9. I think that's what I gave Major League. To me, this is... what, you think that's too high?
I do, yes.
Okay, well, that's why we have our own opinions.
But no,
again, I'm biased.
I'm not saying you are wrong because your opinion is your opinion. And again, no, go ahead. 9's you. Go, bud.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're probably, the next time I pick a movie, we're probably going to get into a movie that's I'm probably not as super biased for, but
yeah.
I've seen this. I mean, if there are movies that I've seen more, well, obviously I watch it every year since high school, so that's probably 10 or 15 times at least that I've seen it. So
10 years, so we've only been out of school for 10 years.
Yeah, but I was doing it while at least in high school, and I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was in middle school. So you're adding another 4 or 5 or 6 times, and then I'm sure I've watched it other times too. So you're looking at a possible 20 plus times I've seen this movie. So yeah. So obviously I'm super biased, but I do really think it's a great movie. Yeah, and I feel pretty good with a 9.
I think it's a really good movie. Like I said, I told you I came in with bias when I came into this, but I'm going 8. I didn't. Billy Bob Thornton's acting I didn't particularly care for. That's probably one of it. And like I said, the biases that I have coming into it. But I do think if it's not the best football movie, it is at least one of the best football movies. I just don't think football plays as well as baseball does. But again, so I'm at an 8.
Dakota.
Okay. I've been thinking about this and how it kind of coincides with our ranking. I think this is like a 7.5. Because I really like when I think what? I mean, don't get me wrong. It is a really good movie. It is a really a I mean, it obviously it really keeps you entranced the whole time. Even me, who isn't really like a big sports guy, like I mean, I was very into the movie and was kind of sitting on the edge of my seat, in the state championship game. Like are they going to win it? Is it going to happen? And really felt it for the players when they didn't win. But like I just kind of feel like this is more of like a niche type movie. This is more of just like a specific market for people.
Yeah,
And just
I originally was at a 7.5 too, but it tugged the emotion of it got me a little bit
yeah,
more to bump me up to that. But no, I understand where you're coming from because again, it's a good movie. I don't think it's
hmm
better than Raiders of the Lost Ark
right,
or
yeah,
Usual Suspect:
yeah,
A Few Good Men. But again, I'm not saying it's bad. That's I think that's the one thing we got to understand is because we don't rate it that high doesn't mean we think it's an awful movie.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't. I don't think any movie we've done so far we think is an awful movie. I think the lowest we've had is what 7.6.
7.6, yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, hey, I'm not. You're not an awful movie until you're getting below a 5. And
Yeah.
then there's probably. Well, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, so that brings us to averages out to 8.17. Ernie, where does that put us on our rankings?
That puts it behind Raiders of the Lost Ark, but above Twister, and it's number 4.
What's 1 and 2?
1 and 2 is A Few Good Men, Than Usual Suspects.
Okay. All right, well, I can live with that.
I'm glad you can. Because you're going to have to.
yeah, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to vote again to where you vote for all 3 of us, that's.
Don't tempt me.
I know.
I'm gonna go change. I have access to your spreadsheet. I'm gonna go change it.
But I can also see when you change things.
We also have an audio recording of what everybody said, so even if you do change it,
okay, well, I'm the one that does the editing, so I'll just edit it.
Okay, that means we're going to be watching 1984 next. No.
Anyway, so all right, so 8.17 that puts it at 4th on the list. You said,
Yes.
And then in our grouping, which is blockbuster, popcorn worthy. Blockbuster's the highest, popcorn worthy is the next, cult classic, matinee only, and straight to video is the bottom. That'll put it in popcorn worthy, which is 8 to 9, right?
Yes.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, that brings to a close another episode. I had to pull out the list to show me the numbers.
It's on the spreadsheet that you were just. Oh, yeah, I guess you did have it pulled up.
I don't have the spreadsheet pulled up. I already have the Wikipedia page and all this other stuff pulled up.
And we're closing this episode out. How?
Well, I don't know. Is that supposed to be? Am I supposed to?
I'll try to segue.
Did I forget? Well, you know me. I probably forgot something that if I was supposed to do.
No.
So yeah, we've only been going an hour and 22 minutes.
That's why I was trying to segue to the exit because we all can get because as we're starting to get right now, we can get long-winded again.
Yeah, we can.
People probably stopped listening like 20 minutes ago, for being honest.
They deserve a cookie if they lasted this long.
Anyways, I did want to quickly say before our last episode, so before Usual Suspects, we crossed 100 downloads. So I know that might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but to us it means a lot because that's about 100 times more than we thought we'd get, especially 5 episodes in. So we really appreciate everybody that's listened, and we hope you continue to listen and give us a 5-star review. But only give us a review if it's 5-star, though. Okay?
Yeah.
Just make sure that's right. And what's the next movie we're doing, Dakota?
The Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride.
You're not opinionated at all before we even start things. I mean, I'm going to shoot this down before we even start.
I will give you. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to give you.
Hey, just have fun storming the castle, is all I'm going to say. I mean, that's it.
No. So,
that's
Princess
a quote
Bride,
before we. So I can't use that next week.
Whatever. I don't know what year that came out, but The Princess Bride. That
87.
would be our 87.
Yeah.
Gosh, how old were you then? 30?
No, I wasn't 30. I was 13.
close enough.
Yeah, tell your dog's gonna bite you for saying that.
The dog's mad at it.
All right, guys. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, and hope you'll tune in again.
All right, we're out of here.